Can we talk about this? I think this is the perfect niche for the regular Joe Blow rider. So in the off-road motorcycle world, there's two main cylinder sizes in the four-stroke world. There's the 250 and the 450. For the average guy, the 450 is just too much, but a 250 is a little bit too small if you want to do dual sport stuff and go on the highway and then come home. So is there a happy medium? And do I have to spend $10,000 in order to get one of these bikes? Let's explore this. Let's talk about this. In this one, I want to talk about the 300cc four-stroke, mainly being the KLX 300, the Honda CRF 300 line, and a little special king of the 300cc four-stroke at the end for you, one that I've raced against and lost to on my two-stroke. So let's go ahead and jump on into Kawasaki's website here. I don't own a KLX 300. I race hard enduro and hare scramble. My weapon of choice is a two-stroke. So we're going to have to go onto their website to check this stuff out. But someone was in my comments. Thank you so much for commenting. And they were talking about the KLX 300. They said they're very seriously considering buying this. They're 55 years old and they want to get back into riding. Is this a good bike? I did very basic research and was like, yeah, this seems really good. And then I thought about it for a second. This guy's pretty normal. This is a pretty normal question. Why don't we talk about this? The KLX 300 seems to me like an all-around good buy for somebody that has that idea that they want to go to a trail with a plate, with lights, turn signals, everything legal. They don't have to do any work to make that. They just buy it legal. And then they go to the trail. They have fun. They might do some mud riding. They might do some sand. They might do just general single track, double track, exploring, whatever the case may be. And then they ride home. This is a great bike for that. And from what I'm seeing, it seems like the 300 is a good middle ground because the 250s are typically, they're kind of race bikes. So they're pretty aggressive. And the 450s are absolute monsters. So if you're off the bike for a long time, or you've just been riding, like a street bike to and from work for 10 years, and you haven't been off road, this might be the segment for you. The KLX 300 is really cheap too, even new. You could probably pick these up used for really, really cheap. But new, these things are MSRP is $5,500. That's pretty wild. I spent more than that on my very used 300 two-stroke. They have a 21-inch front wheel and an 18 in the rear, which is pretty standard for the off-road dual sport world. The only time you'll see that be different is in motocross, and you'll have a 19-inch rear wheel. But an 18-inch rear wheel means that you'll have access to all kinds of tires that you can put on more aggressive off-road tires that are more biased towards dirt. Or if you're someone who rides more on the street, you can very easily find 18 and 21-inch adventure tires that are 50-50 or even more biased towards the street. So that's very good. They have disc brakes, which I know to a lot of people sounds crazy. Like, why would it not have disc brakes? But that's actually not that uncommon where I live. I live in Mexico, to see a new bike being sold with a rear drum because it's just such a reliable option. So having a disc brake in the rear is pretty cool. And it looks like LED headlight. That's something. I will say that most off-road motorcycles headlights are pretty terrible. So I don't have faith that this is going to be a great headlight. Ergonomic, comfortable and ergonomic. Most dirt bikes are pretty darn comfortable and ergonomic. I used to ride sport bikes when I was younger, and they have you basically just like leaned over on the tank. Sport bikes don't care about your ergonomics. Dirt bikes kind of have your hands up in a nice comfortable position. And honestly, for the most part, if you're riding off the road, you should be standing in the attack position. Even if you're an older person, it's just safer to ride with your butt up off the seat. Stand up, get off the seat, get in the attack position. Even if you're just getting into it, it's always good to practice good form, especially off-road, because off-road, there's just a lot more going on underneath your tires. Power and performance. This was something he was concerned about. He was like, I think that the 300 might have a little bit too little power. And I can tell you that that's not the case. Off-road, we are not power limited. Even a 125 four-stroke can lose traction. Even a 250 four-stroke can very, very easily spin the rear tire without issue. So a 300cc is going to be the same way. It's just going to have, it's going to be a little bit more oomph. So you see, potentially you're coming from the road bike world and you're seeing 18 foot-pounds of torque and you're thinking that's absolutely nothing. Well, on the street, you're right. But off-road, that's a very easy, you twist the throttle too much, you're going to spin the rear tire. You get the tire stuck on a rock and you try and just ride over it, it's going to spin. Off-road, we are traction limited, not power limited. Really, anything past the 250, you're spinning the tire and it's up to you to be smooth on the throttle. So is 300 enough power for off-road riding? 100%. The real question is it enough for highway riding? I think that if the highway is 70 miles an hour, and we say that 70 miles an hour is where I want to go, it's absolutely fine. You have plenty of room. You're not going to be at the red line trying to stay 70 miles an hour. While on a 250, you might be you're going to be revving it higher. But these 300s, they have that ability to drop the RPMs on the highway and just cruise, which is really nice. And I would say that that's the main appeal of the 300 niche. I think it's great. Looking at this, I'm seeing a good bore to stroke ratio, a very short stroke and a big bore, which means that it's going to be harder to stall. If it had a small bore and a big long stroke, the piston would have to travel further in between power delivery and it would be easier to stall. Think 500cc single cylinder KTM is a perfect example of this. That has a hugely long stroke and those things will stall. Just if you just think about slowing down.
God damn this bike.
So having a small stroke, big bore means you can very easily chug this thing along. I like that. Compression ratio 11.1 to 1 means you can use any gas, no issue. Maximum torque, we talked about that. Fuel system is throttle body or fuel system DFI. So fuel injection. That's great. I personally, I don't like carburetors. I don't want to stop and change my jets. I don't want to carry a jet kit around with me. So having fuel injection is, to me, an absolute 2 thumbs up. Yes. Yeah, especially when you're off-road and things are really dirty. Because dirt plus carburetors equals a bad time. So this is a good thing. Ignition, CDI, that's irrelevant. 6-speed, that's pretty normal for off-road. Not for motocross, but for enduro, that's pretty normal. Let's look at I don't know what that's a pretty standard gauge cluster. It looks like it comes with a key, which might surprise you, but that's not normal. The telescopic fork, inverted telescopic fork, that's good. But it could be a non-inverted fork, and that's not as good for off-road. It's a little old school, so that's actually pretty decent suspension. Overall, I think this is a great bike, very approachable, and I think it's a good, more dirt-oriented bike in this segment. Most adventure bikes, almost all adventure bikes, the Tenere, the Ducati, whatever the crap it is, the Honda Africa Twin, guys, those are all too big for off-road. I know that there are pro riders that can put them off-road and do well. I know that, but I don't know if you know this, but Paul Taurus is like 6'7", and he is the third most winning trials bike rider in history. So saying that if Paul Taurus can ride an adventure bike off-road, so can I, is kind of like saying if Shaquille O'Neal can slam dunk, then so can I. That's not even like appropriate because the Shaquille O'Neal isn't the third most best basketball player of all time. I don't really know basketball, but I think you get my point. Paul Taurus is an insanely good motorcycle rider mixed with he's very tall. So those adventure bikes are not good off-road. They just are not. I know that's going to hurt a lot of feelings because a lot of people spent a lot of money on them, but this bike for $5,500 is going to be far more capable to the normal person off-road than the $10,000 to $20,000 adventure bike. This is a great deal. I really like this bike. But this isn't the only one I want to talk about. This is a 4-stroke 300cc niche that I want to talk about. So let's go ahead and move on to the next manufacturer that has one in this line. And they don't just have one. They have 3. So Honda actually doesn't like I said, they don't just have one. We're going to start with their base model 300, the CRF 300L. We talked about the CRF line in case you're on Marketplace or you're going into a dealership and you want to get armed with that information. Then I'll put my hands up. Go to one of these, I'll put a link, go to that and check out the CRF line because I describe it in really great long detail. The CRF 300L is what we're going to be talking about today. It is a 4-stroke 300cc liquid cooled motorcycle, very similar to the one we just looked at from Kawasaki. Same price even. So really, at this point, I think these two motorcycles are going to be very similar. And to be honest, you're just picking a brand. So if you're someone who likes Kawasaki, cool. If you're someone who likes Honda, cool. If you're someone who doesn't know, pick the one that looks cooler to you. I'm not joking. I know a lot of people are going to say, oh, blah, blah, blah. There's this reason and there's this reason. You can argue dirt bikes until you're blue in the face, but in the end of the day, whatever makes you the most happy is the best bike for you. So if you prefer green to red and you don't care about brands, get the green bike. I know that's crazy to say, but I will say that Honda has different types that you can purchase. So the CRF 300L is going to be their base standard bike. It's fuel injected, disc brakes, 21 and 18 tires. It's very similar to the KLX 300. It even has, an aluminum frame. These bikes are, for the average Joe Blow going to ride, these two motorcycles might as well be the same thing. Just one's the different color. The difference is that I did see on the KLX, correct me if I'm wrong, because I want to talk about this, you can purchase the Honda with ABS. Every single time I mention ABS in an off-road motorcycle, I feel it's mandatory to say I do not recommend ABS on an off-road motorcycle. It does add to the price, and in my opinion, it makes the motorcycle worse. So if for some weird reason you want ABS on an off-road motorcycle, Honda has you covered. Please don't do it. It's not a good idea. You should be able to lock your tires up whenever you want off-road. There are so many reasons why anytime a computer comes in and interacts with your traction surface, that it's a bad thing. I'm going to stop right there because I can go on all day about how much I hate ABS and traction control. They are the worst thing in off-road. So mainly, I genuinely believe that the two differences between the Honda CRF 300L and the Kawasaki KLX 300 is just brand preference, and maybe you have a dealership closer to you that you can purchase one or the other. And honestly, parts are a very important consideration when it comes to the off-road motorcycle. I'm going to go back to Kawasaki real quick. I noticed that the Kawasaki does not come with hand guards. So that's $30 that you would have to spend at a Cherubies or something like that to get hand guards. Not a big deal, but it is something. Neither one comes with a skid plate, which is something I always recommend, which is just a plate that goes underneath between the world of rocks and bad things and your delicate engine. So you should definitely get a skid plate for these. That's going to protect your engine from rocks, logs, and anything like that. And it also protect your rear suspension linkage. You want to protect that from rocks. Because if you ever want to do anything that might be a little bit gnarly is what we're going to call it. It might do something gnarly, brah. You're going to need that protection, especially if you live in a rocky place. If you live in a place like northern Michigan, or just if you live in a place like the lower peninsula of Michigan, not northern Michigan, it's all sand and you probably don't need a skid plate, but I would buy one anyways. It's cheap insurance to make sure that you don't have a rock hit the case and have all your oil leak out and you blow an engine. Anyways, I mentioned before that Honda has multiple options in the 300 segment. So let's go ahead and check out the next one that they have. This is one that I forgot to cover in my CRF. What the F is CRF doing? Because there's so many different options. This is the CRF 300 LS. Someone came in the comments and said, hey, you forgot the LS. I really like that bike. It has a lower seat height. I didn't know. I just missed it. So this is essentially the same thing as the CRF 300L, but with a slightly lower seat height. So LS, low seat, kind of makes sense. This is a good thing. Anytime you can make a motorcycle more approachable, you can see this person here is now standing flat-footed. Anytime you can do that, it adds confidence. And off-road, most of the times we don't stop on a flat plane of existence like you do on the road. On the road, I can put one foot down on my dirt bike. Off-road, I very rarely can do that. So anything you can do here to make this more approachable, lowering the seat, definitely 2 thumbs up, good idea, especially for somebody who's new getting back into it. So the Honda CRF 300 LS, we'll call it the 300 low seat, is definitely an option. It's slightly more expensive, but if you looked at the ABS model and thought, I'm going to get the ABS model, this is the same price as that, get this instead, because now you can put your feet down. You're going to have to buy hand guards, which kind of sucks, but it's $30 from a Cheerby's. So this is another great option that I missed last time. And I just wanted to include it in this video to say that if you're not over 6 foot tall, and you want to be able to put both your feet down, that this is an option for you, because honestly, most off-road motorcycles are very tall to have a high ground clearance. It's just the way it is, and something you have to get used to, but with a lower seat height, you might not have to. Pretty cool. So we're going to go ahead and go to the next option, again from Honda, because this is kind of Honda's main bread and butter when it comes to they're the main ones that make this 300cc 4-stroke. But I really like this bike's looks. I think it looks amazing. It's the CRF 300L Rally. The main difference is that it has a bigger fuel tank and cooler body panels and a big windscreen, so that it's meant to look like you can put your rally book behind it. If you ever watched Dakar or even Baja, those windshields are actually mostly there to keep dust and debris from hitting the navigation stuff. So they're not really windshields, they're more like debris shields for the the expensive navigation equipment. So this bike looks like a rally bike. And in all honesty, I would use this to rally. Rally racing is more about good navigation, not getting penalties, and maintaining a good, consistent average speed throughout the day. I feel like this motorcycle could do that. It's got a big tank, got cool lights. I like the way it looks. So yeah, I don't see any reason why you couldn't genuinely rally race this motorcycle. I think it's great. Plus it comes with a skid plate. It is slightly more expensive at $6,200, but honestly, you could probably pick one of these up used and be very happy. I like that it has a skid plate. I like that it has a bigger fuel tank. I like the way it looks. I think it looks great. Overall, in this segment, I think this is the king. But that being said, there is one bike from a brand that you may not have heard of. So let's go ahead and check that out. This is, in my opinion, the king of the 300 4-stroke, the pièce de résistance. And I say that with all the intended purposes, because we're here to talk about Sherco. Sherco is a well-known brand in the hard enduro community, but outside of that, I realize most people have probably never heard of Sherco. They don't really make street bikes. They are the very niche market. But I will say, before I scroll down, I already did, but I'll act like I didn't, that this motorcycle is not in the same class as the other two. The only thing that makes this motorcycle similar to the other two is that it has a similar sized engine, but it is going to be far more aggressive. It's not designed to be comfortable at all. This is the race bike of the 300cc 4-strokes. This is a bike that I have raced against and lost to. The Sherco SE-F 300 factory 4T. 4T means for tiempo. In Spanish, it's for tiempo. It might be something different in French, but 4T, 4-stroke. It's very expensive compared to the bikes that we've been looking at. You could buy 2 of the Hondas. You could buy 2 KLXs brand new for the same price as this Sherco. So this is the reason I say it's not really in the same category. This is simply a race bike that is the same size. And I just wanted to show it to you because you may not have ever heard of Sherco. I love Sherco. Their ergonomics are a little bit cramped for my taste, but you can adjust that. I think that they are one of the cooler looking dirt bikes. They come with a lot of things that KTM and Honda and all those things just don't include. For example, a reservoir tank. I think that for most people that ride road bikes, they're like, of course it comes with a reservoir tank. But no, if my motorcycle, my KTM 300 2-stroke, if that boils over, if it gets too hot, it just vents to atmosphere and all that coolant is gone. So Sherco includes that from the factory. And yeah, that's something that's really not normal. But again, it's for basically $13,000. You kind of think, well, it's better. Yeah, these bikes are absolute beasts without question. If you want to, if you think that I have raced in the past, I haven't raced in the last 5 to 10 years, maybe 20 years, but I do want to do it now again. And I'm willing to spend that extra money to make sure I have a bike that can take the abuse of racing. Look at the Sherco, especially if you want a 300cc that can go on the highway and cruise. You want something that's a little bit more ready to race. I know that's KTM's slogan, but yeah, this comes with everything you're going to need to go race. You could buy this, show up the next day at the races, and have a blast. In capable hands, these bikes are menacingly quick, and they're definitely equipped to go racing. So I just wanted to show this to you. I know it's probably out of the price range for people that are looking at the KLX or the Honda, but if you're someone that was just looking and thought, like, had that in the back of their mind that you might want to go racing, and this isn't that, the price isn't that big of a deal to you, there you go. Sherco 300. They have a 300 two-stroke and they have a 300 four-stroke. Both are incredible. These motorcycles are absolute menacing weapons. So here in Mexico, at least, if you line up against a Sherco, that guy's going to be quick. I don't know what it is, but something about Sherco attracts fast riders. So it's a great bike. Definitely recommend if you're looking to race. Hardcore races like Hare Scramble, Woods Racing, GNCC, Rally, all that stuff is right up the alley of this motorcycle. I wouldn't hesitate to take it to a motocross track and hit big jumps with it either, which is something that I probably wouldn't want to do on the other two. You can, but it's gonna be less capable than this. I really appreciate you guys watching these videos. I've gotten a lot of support on the Can We Talk About It, and it's really great to see. I genuinely appreciate it. So leave a comment below. I'm always in the comments. I do read them and I do reply to them. I want to talk about these things. Dirt bikes are my passion. Off-road racing is what I do. So please go ahead, leave a comment, ask me questions. Maybe I'll make a video like this one where someone asked me about the KLX 300. Maybe I will respond in a video as well as in the comments. So thank you so much for watching. Hope you have a great day. I'll see you in the next one.